is Maximus Decimus Meridius, commander of the armies of the North, general of the Felix Legions, and loyal servant to the true emperor Marcus Aurelius, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and a big fan of the Slick podcast. Keeping it real and always keeping it groovy.
You have tuned in for a Slick podcast. I'm here to seek the truth. Live from Scotland around the UK. The one and only Slick podcast. Enjoy the show. Can I ask important questions? No matter how bizarre the truth might be. Tune in for Slick Podcast. Keeping it real, keeping it groovy.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, or a very good day to you when and wherever you're listening from. And a very warm welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Simon Laurie King. Coming up on today's show, my guest is a Hollywood screenwriter. He is an actor, director, and all-round good guy. He has a large following on TikTok, which is where I first reached out to him to ask a question regarding writing a script myself. Long story short then, we had a Zoom call and absolutely hit it off from the get-go. And I'm not sure if we even talked for very long about the script that I had. From our first call nearly a year ago, we have kept in regular contact. We mainly chew the fat about life and its isms, but never politics, I might add. We've discussed scripts that my guest has written, produced and acted in. But also, I've learned there is way more to him than his script writing. He has led a very diverse and colourful life. He was a house painter, a professional chef. He has been a restaurant owner with a very successful restaurant in Hawaii. My guest at one time was a practicing minister of the church with all the responsibilities that go with that vocation. He has lived his life by following his instinct and having faith in his own abilities to achieve his goals. My guest's early childhood was reinforced by strict Catholic family values and intertwined with those of the church. Having read about his life experiences for myself, I can tell you that today's episode is going to be very interesting. Oh, by the way, I sent my guest a bottle of whiskey from our local Annandale distillery. I have one too, so we will be having a dram as we chat. So then, without further delay, it's my absolute pleasure to welcome Neal Gumpel to the show.
Thank you so much, Simon.
We've had a lot of technical difficulties, massive technical difficulties, but we're here now and we've both got a bottle of Man of Words. This is from the Annandale distillery. I think we'll start off our interview by opening our bottles of whiskey.
Mine's empty. What the fuck?
Wow.
You know how many times I wanted to just try it? I said, he's going to make me pop it open live, so I can't cheat.
No, not at all. This is Man of Words, and it's I think this is 9 years old, and it's sherry cask. And I thought we'd call our episode today Man of Words in honour of the whiskey from the local distillery in Annan, on the borders here in Dumfries and Galloway. And obviously you are a man of words, so slàinte.
So when you drink this level of quality stuff, do you put it on ice? Do you put water in it? What's your procedure?
Well, I don't put water in it, and I don't put ice with it. The bottle, because it's been left outside, is quite cold anyway. But I don't put water in it. I just drink it as God intended.
Good. That's the way I like it.
That's beautiful.
Ooh.
Isn't it?
Yes. Very good. Now, you said something about, a few weeks ago, you said something about letting it breathe. If you were to let this sit open, or if you poured it in a decanter, would it be much of a difference?
I've never done that, to be honest with you. I mean, you can take the cork out and, sort of maybe let it breathe for 10, 15 minutes. But as far as decanting it goes, I suppose it must be a thing. Otherwise, the decanter industry wouldn't have really taken off.
I know with wine, it's true. It's absolutely true with wine. I used to know a lot about wine years ago and drank good wines. And it was imperative that certain wines, you pour them and let them breathe a little. And then we would do a side-by-side tasting where we'd get the wine right out of the bottle. Then we put it in a decanter and then let it sit and then taste the wine. A complete difference. One was much more musty, stronger, acidic, and then it smooths right out. So I'd be very curious. What I'll do afterwards, I'll pour some in a glass and I'll let it sit for a while and see what the difference is. Or I'll just drink the whole friggin' thing. It tastes fantastic, though. Now, because I live down here, remember, I live in the mountains of Tennessee here. Not Nashville, not Memphis. I'm in the friggin' mountains, Deliverance. Here I am.
Nice.
The people are charming. So it's, I'm in the northeast Tennessee in the mountains. And these people here, they drink a lot of whiskey. And for the other day, for the first time, for someone who's been drinking his whole life, I've been to Iceland. I drank Black Death in Iceland. I've never had real moonshine till about 5 days ago. I visited a family who makes their own stuff, and they said they have 3 different levels. And I have a mason jar. They gave me a mason jar of moonshine, and it was. I don't know what to compare it to. It doesn't taste good. It's just like super vodka, just burn. And I what the frig do you do with this stuff? And they said, well, they put in lemonade. They like to put in lemonade. But real high quality stuff.
I had Romanian Palinka and also Trika. Trika is Palinka. It's plum brandy that they distill it twice and it becomes Trika. Really strong. So I suppose that would be the same as, like moonshine, some sort of hooch. It was really, and then you've got Irish poutine. I've had that before as well. That's amazing stuff. Really strong.
The stuff I had trying to remember the stuff I had in Iceland. It was a long time ago. I went over there because Ben Stiller told us he wants us to do this movie in Iceland. He did later go on to do a movie in Iceland, but he asked me and my friend Dave Frigerio, or his partner asked us to go over there and put together a romantic comedy of Ben Stiller, fish out of water, goes to Iceland. So that's the first time I left the United States, other than to go to Canada once. But and I went there and they had this Black Death. And I think it has I could be wrong. I think it has a certain flavor like a licorice or something. But the proof is something like 180 or something. It's like crazy, crazy dangerous. The shit that make you go blind. This is very smooth. This is good. I've been learning more and more about whiskeys because I have a couple friends here who buy the really expensive stuff, Scotch whiskeys, different ones like this. And I find sometimes the more expensive they are, the more of an acquired taste you have to have for them. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They're very peaty, earthy.
Yeah.
I went to a Johnny Walker tasting once in LA, and the people from Johnny Walker were there, and there was a group of us there, and they started with the red, the regular Johnny Walker, next one, the green, the black, the blue, the gold, and each one got worse for me because I did not have an acquired, each one got much more peaty, much more earthy, almost dirt-like flavor. And it was years before I finally realized to appreciate it. But this is very nice. This is very smooth, and you're drinking faster than me. So this, I got to speed it up here.
Let's get the ball rolling on this one. You come from a very large family with 10 children, including yourself. Your parents were Roman Catholics. If you wouldn't mind setting the scene, as it were, tell us about your early childhood experiences of that Catholicism. I'll add that I've read about when you were just 8 years old and forced to confess to the Almighty about your wickedness. And, of course, about a certain nun that hit you on the head with a bell just for answering to your own name.
Well, first of all, my father wasn't Catholic. My mother, hardcore Irish Catholic, born, raised in New York, very Catholic. That's where the Catholic came from. My father was a doctor. People said, what religion was your father? I said, he was a medical doctor. That's all he did. He never went into church. He never did anything, never talked about it, never wanted to talk about it. And the fact is, he later told us when I was about 14 or 15 that his father was Jewish, Orthodox Jewish. So my father was half Jew, which made me quarter Jewish. And we didn't know until I was 15, which pissed me off because I was like, all my Jewish friends had bar mitzvahs. They were smart. They were going places. I wasn't going anywhere. I said, if you told us this, maybe we could have tapped into that. So my mother was in charge of where we went to school. So we all went to Our Lady of Mercy, which is an elementary school in the suburbs of New York. And at the time, this is in the 60s now, it was all nuns. There were a couple lay teachers thrown in, but it was all nuns. With the whole shaboog on. They got the, Sisters of Charity, they called them. And they had the little bonnet that looked like the friggin' butter girl with butter commercial with the black bonnet and the thing that went down with the big boots on, the brogans and they had the big rosary hanging off of them. It would go, it was like Igor. They come down the hallway. You hear this, all the metal and clanking and shit. So anyway, we had to go to Catholic school. My first year was kindergarten, of course, and I had a lay teacher. There was no nun. And I kind of liked it. It was okay. My problem came, and of course I had 3 siblings older than me, so they were already in the system. One was in first, one was in second, one was in fourth, something like that. My problem came in first grade when you had to suddenly take your finger out of your nose and start doing math or, reading and writing. And, they realized immediately something was wrong with me. I knew something was wrong with me because I didn't understand a thing these people were talking to me about. So, and that's where the Catholics at that time were very much into smacking the shit out of you. You know what I mean? If you had bad grades, you were done for. My brother Roy mentioned that in the movie we just did. They interviewed him about me. He says, boy, it must have been tough for him because it was tough for anybody. So with the Catholics, that's what happened. So all the crazy shit that comes along with being a Catholic and not being smart, the thing you're talking about that kind of made me the man I am today was, I think I was 11 or 12, you do your first confirmation. That's like the first time. Now you could take the host. But with that, you have to have your first confession. So they go, you got to go in the booth and tell the guy, the priest, what sins you have. You're going to be alone with him. You tell him about your sins. He's going to tell you how many Hail Marys, how many Our Fathers, whatever. But anyway, we were rehearsing the day before because the confirmation was on a Saturday. So Friday, they lined us up at school and the nuns, directing you forward. It's like traffic, and like lines all the kids up. And we all stood in place and the nun, girls on this side, boys on this side who were like standing there. And she says, Neal. And I said, what? This big echoey church. I just thought she was calling my name, And everybody kneels, and I'm still standing there like, huh? And she came at me like a linebacker. I mean, she came down the aisle, almost skidded into me, and just clang with the bell right here. Just like, and the kids were dying laughing. They thought I was the funniest fuck they've ever met. Right there, that's the only good thing that came out of it. I said, girls are laughing. But I didn't know I didn't know what was going on. And there was a series of things like that where in Catholic school, I was so stupid. I used to pray for multiple choice. Should you have that over there on the other side of the pond there, the multiple choice? Where they ask a question on a test and they give you three choices and you fill in which one it is?
Yeah.
I used to pray for that because I knew I had a 33% chance of being right. You know what I mean? It was like a slot machine. But I was so stupid. What I did, I just went straight down. Like A, turned my paper in like after 5 minutes. So they knew what I was doing. I should have randomly picked out things and maybe, and I'd still fail. It was still didn't work out.
Your school years were a roller coaster of emotions, as they are for most children. I can draw a parallel that you and I both share. The trait of being given special attention. In the school I went to myself, we were put together in a class labelled as, believe it or not, the remedials. But looking back at those school years and the characters I served my time alongside, I suspect a lot of them are now CEOs of their own company, probably about now. Talk to me about those early years at school. Were you really into school and the learning thing, or was it a bit like I thought? Because I went to boarding school. It was more of a prison camp.
Oh, no, I can't even begin to say, and I never really get into it because people think I'm kidding, how terrified I was every single morning. I mean, on Sunday night, I was goddamn suicidal. I was like, I was terrified because the physical abuse the nuns would do. Then you get home, God forbid, report cards, which came in 4 times a year, 3 times a year. Then the parents would beat the crap out of you, mainly my father with the belt, because you had bad grades. So you couldn't win. I hated school. I was so scared to death every day, constantly. I'd be pissing my pants. I'd be, I was physically, I've talked to people who are in like prisons. It was the worst thing in the world. And I can't, it's almost funny, but there was something else going on in my head, kind of strange. If I could mention this one thing real quick, and it's, we're taught Adam and Eve from kindergarten. Adam and Eve were in the garden. It's her fault. She got the apple, made him eat it. He bit it, but they both got in trouble. I didn't doubt that one bit. I didn't doubt that. Right up till like 3rd or 4th grade, I didn't question that. I used to like having the Bible at home, the big family Bible that nobody ever touched. I'd turn the pages and look at these paintings and beautiful, scary paintings of hell and Dante's Inferno and stuff. And I came in, I think it was 4th grade. I came to school, and on the first day of school, we had this Sister Mary Petronella. She looked like a dried apple, about 350, dried apple to face. Had to be 90. And she starts talking about, she puts up this poster with the the evolutionary scale. At one side you see a monkey, at the other side this guy who looks like he looks like Mel Gibson. You know what I mean? And somewhere in between, it looked like my Uncle Morris. But there's something like that. In other words, she started, and then on the first day she started talking about, well, we came from monkeys. And all of us in the class are looking at each other like, what the fuck is this about? Like, we never even heard of this. They were, because of government money, whatever. I don't know. I don't know this story. Maybe someday I should learn. But even the Catholic schools were forced to suddenly, or decided to suddenly teach evolution, which is a theory, Mm-hmm. And they're telling us, and I just sat there like, and of course the whole class is like, I just better shut up and do what I'm told. And I raised my hand. I go, I thought we came from Adam and Eve. That's all. That was it for me. I thought she was going to kill me. Another physical assault on me. And all I was asking was a question. Wait a minute. You convinced me about Adam and Eve, and I'm with it. What's this monkey shit? Because I know my grandma Gumpel did not come from monkeys. I remember them talking in school once about capital punishment and liberal. The churches suddenly got very liberal. Used to have the Gregorian chant and the insensitive stuff. I don't know what they were saying, but it felt right, you know. Also, they bring in the folk guitars and the hippie after school singing to the kids and the, you know, with the tambourine. I was like, what the fuck is this? If I could be miserable, I want it to make sense. You know what I mean? So, and then we had a teacher that wasn't a nut, a lay teacher, and she started talking about capital punishment. And she was talking about how, you know, just because somebody murders somebody doesn't give you the right to take their life because life is sacred. I said, well, and I know I think it was a Monday morning. I just watched Walt Disney the night before. I said, well, they killed Old Yeller. You know what I mean? You know, the rabid dog, the Labrador Retriever, who everybody loves, Old Yeller. Yeah. But he went nuts. So they took him out back and blew his brains out. You know what I mean? And that was, I immediately as a child thought, if someone's running around killing someone, you got to get rid of them. You know what I mean? That got me in trouble. That got me in big trouble. They thought I was being a smartass. So I was just being logical. Like, well, what if somebody's killing everybody? You have to get rid of them. Even the good old Yeller, the Disney movie, Old Yeller, at the end, the family shoots the dog, the hero. They shoot him because he just was fucking everything up. You know what I mean?
Did he have it coming?
Oh, he had it coming up. He was dangerous.
At the age of 21, you became an ordained minister. You studied the ancient languages of Hebrew and Greek, searching for answers to the mysteries and origins of Holy Scripture. Talk to me about that.
I went to Catholic school, got thrown out of Catholic school halfway through 6th grade, only because they just said, you know, you're too stupid, get out of here, sent me to public school.
Got thrown out?
Halfway through 6th grade.
Who gets thrown out of Catholic school?
Me.
Sorry, carry on.
They sent me to public school where they told you you're going to hell because you're now in public school. So anyway, we go to public school. And so I end up in a terrible situation. The book Inky Gumpel, the movie, and not to push my movie, but there's a movie done about my life, a documentary called Inky, I-N-K-Y. And I talk about my altercation. Altercation isn't the right word. It was a brutal rape at the hands of Father Roy Drake, a Jesuit out of New York. He got his hands on me when I was 16. I was a pretty tough kid, but he's 7 feet tall. He's a very scary guy, Father Roy Drake. You could look him up online. He got his hands on me for an evening, and me and my friend, and altered my life. And I just went dark completely. I was a pot smoking, rock and roller kid, you know, my parents didn't, you know. So what happened was I was suddenly thrown into complete horror. My family cut me off. There was a lot of misunderstanding with my siblings, everything else. It's not their fault. It's not my parents' fault. Nobody knows how to deal with that kind of shit back then. Nowadays, they take you to a therapist or something. They didn't know what to do. So I entered my senior year of high school, senior year of high school. Yeah. Like completely crazy, drinking like crazy. By the way, cheers. This is great stuff.
Bon jovi.
And I went into high school, just a stoner, and you know. And I met this very, very cute girl, adorable, cute girl, out of my league, and just this cute little thing. And I don't know, for some reason, we just kind of just hit it off quickly. And one of my friends said to me, well, be careful, because she's one of Jehovah's Witnesses, you know? So on our first night together, a date night, I said, so Paul tells me you study the Bible or you're a Jehovah's Witness. She goes, well, I'm not a Jehovah's Witness. I studied the Bible with them. You know, the door-to-door people. They're all around the world. Everyone knows them.
Yeah.
I said, oh, really? I said, I've always been sort of fascinated. I got thrown out of Catholic school in sixth grade, but I got fascinated with the whole thing. I do believe in God. And she goes, oh. I said, and I didn't give her any details, but I said, just recently I had a very bad altercation with a Jesuit priest. And I let her, it was sexual nature. I told her, I didn't want to give her too much juice, you know. I just said I was taken advantage of by a guy. And she says, oh, that happens all the time. And I was like, what? She goes, that happens all the time. Remember, people didn't even know about this back then. It was the biggest, darkest secret. I said, how do you know that? She goes, because the church I'm a member of, Jehovah's Witnesses, quite a few members were once Catholics, and they left for different reasons. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of them left. I'm like, this was like seeing a spaceship. I was like, are you kidding me? She goes, no. Do you want to meet some of them? I'm like, fuck, yes, I do. You know what I mean? So it wasn't 2 nights later, a Thursday night, I got my long hair, my jean jacket, my dream, go in to the Kingdom Hall. All these really wonderful, sweet, they love bomb you. You walk in, the love is just dripping off the walls, you know? And immediately I met this wonderful older Japanese guy who turned out to be one of the most famous cartoonists in the world. I didn't know that for another 10 years. And other people, and I went right into it. And they said, well, you know, your hair is too long and you rock and roll. You can't smoke marijuana. You can't get drunk. You could drink, but you can't get drunk. And then you can't have sex. And we were having sex, her and I. We started right out of the gate. And I said, wait a minute. So you talking me into joining a church? We can't have sex. Well, guess what, dear? We're getting married real soon. And I was only like 17. She was like 16. And we did. We got married just shortly afterwards. We got married at, I think on my 19, and she was 17, I think. But the witnesses, people poking me. You were a Jehovah's Witness. You knocked on doors. I said, God damn right. And I spoke at assemblies. A public speaker. I was a very well-known public speaker. I was very dear friends for many years. And I don't regret a bit of it because at the time, the Moonies, remember the Moonies, that big cult, the Moonies, the Chinese crazy shit going on in New York?
Yeah. If
they got me on that Monday morning, I would have joined the Moonies. I would shave my head and stood in the airports giving out flour. It was just at the right time.
Was it a case of, so obviously this young lady you were smitten with, but if you were saying I would have joined the Moonies, is it a case of there was some void, as there was something missing in your life because you obviously had the faith still there, though you weren't in the Catholic school, but you were still. Seems a bit dramatic, but was there a void if you're saying that, or I would have gone to the Moonies if I was given the chance?
Well, you know what? That's a very good point. You know me, I kind of talk in certain ways. I wouldn't have joined the Moonies because they were. I don't know if they were Christian. I have never stopped believing in God, and I've never stopped believing that he sent his son to help straighten his fucking mess out, give his life. I've always believed that in some form or another. But I was easy. Let's put it that way. I was vulnerable, susceptible, and people ask me too, well, wasn't it true that she was a real piece of ass and you were really into her? Well, yeah. But in all honesty, now that I'm older, looking back, I had a suicide attempt, and it was a good one. It wasn't a phony suicide. It was a real attempt. I was just too stupid,
Is this a result of the wicked behavior of that
Yes, yes. Well, there was that, and just my life was not good. It was just not. My father was disgusted with me because I was stupid from the age of like 8 to the age of Yeah, it was a real direct result. It was kind of like crazy. It just got really bad.
Where I went to boarding school with the remedial class. I mean, you and I have talked for a year, and I'd like to think I don't act remedial, but I just think a lot of kids, probably myself, I would say definitely, and it sounds like you, it's not stupid, it's misunderstood, right?
Yeah, clearly. Yeah, yeah, because I have one of my grandsons, Jason. They call him James. He's a musical genius. I mean, literally, he plays in jazz clubs in New York. He's only 15. He just turned 15. He's been playing clubs for like a couple of years, and they just told me like a week ago. He goes, "Well, he can't do the math. He can't do algebra." I said, "What are you kidding me? This guy rewires organs and builds instruments. What are you talking about?" I never knew that he wasn't good in school. Mm-hmm. I figured he's a genius because his father's a genius. His mother's smart. They go, "Oh no, didn't you ever know that he can't do that stuff?" I'm like, "You're kidding me." I thought it was a straight A student. They go, "No, everything's music in his basement, writing, composing." He just worked on Inky the movie, doing the score with us, and he worked on Fish Therapy, my television show. He helped write some of the original music for that. So yeah, the point of what you're saying is, it's just the method of teaching. Nowadays, they catch this stuff. They could spot somebody. They could spot someone and say, that kid in the corner with his finger up his nose, staring out the window, his brain is probably going 100 miles an hour while we're all sitting here, playing with marbles, So if you're in the right situation, they can catch that stuff, So
exactly. But I think a lot of children are, or certainly were back in the day. I mean, in my day in the 1970s, especially in boarding school, were greatly misunderstood and probably labelled as lazy or lazy or stupid. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure there were stupid kids around, but I can tell you this: I have met a lot of very well educated stupid people in my time, and those with no academia that I would put genius on their level.
Well, when you went to boarding school, because we never discussed this, did you live away or did you live at home?
No, I lived away at boarding school all the time.
See, that's like the ultimate nightmare to me. Like, as crazy as my parents were, I can't imagine leaving my siblings, who were also extremely abusive, some of them, and going and being put in a big place, a building somewhere. How does that work?
It was the 1970s, and it was definitely haunted. It was a big place. It was blazers and ties. It was, in a lot of ways, it was the best plagiarism here, the best of times and the worst of times. If myself and Jet, who you've spoken to, were ever blessed with children, I would have never sent them to boarding school. It was character building for sure. I mean, I'm not a CEO, but certainly some of the kids that I can remember had that certain ism about them that I would not say they were lazy or remedial. They just thunk outside the box. Is that even a word? Thunk. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I had a couple of my friends growing up who really, really smart, educated, top-notch colleges, everything. They went on and did what they did. But I have a few of those friends who are like dumber than me, who are now multi-millionaires 10 times over with really cute wives. And they're happy. You know what I mean? It's like, kind of like, yeah, it's just, if I had to put it this way, like when you talk about your experience where they take you away from your parents and you go live in a room with a bunch of people, I have a problem with male nudity anyway. I could never live I'd shower together. That'll never happen. I would have done a swan dive off the top of the building at the parking lot first day.
Yeah.
It would have been over.
It
But
was character building. I must admit, something that I wouldn't. It was circumstance. Let's just put it that way. But let's go back a little bit. Talk to me about the point that you becoming a fully ordained minister and all of the duties, because it's not a job.
Well, yeah, one of the things that impressed me about the Jehovah's Witnesses were that they are not paid. They don't have a paid clergy. That's always bothered me, that someone says, I think I'm going to do this, sit around, smoke cigars, eat steak, and, make house calls. Yeah, it's not what Jesus taught. I knew that since I was a kid. Just something, this hierarchy. I didn't like the guys with the dresses, wearing the funny dresses. I didn't like that. So for me, I was just, if you want to compare, I was just really, once I started studying with Jehovah's Witnesses and I actually became baptized, you don't get to join like that. You can't just join. You got to study. You got to convince them that you're for real and you're sincere, whatever, and then you get baptized. So once I was baptized, I was off to the races. I mean, while working full time now with 3 kids, 3 little girls, adorable little girls and a wife. And my wife didn't work outside. She didn't work outside the home because she was busy preaching and stuff. I would get up at 5 a.m, go to train stations and stand there, hand out the Watchtower, the Awake magazine, and preach to people and talk to homeless people and whatever, and try to do the right. I really was trying to just help people do better, whatever. And they spotted me and said, this guy's got minister material. And the church, we call it elders. You're an elder. So after a few years of that, they said, we'd like to make you a ministerial servant, which is, if you compare in a biblical sense, it'd be like Timothy, how Timothy went with the Apostle Paul. He's kind of worked under Paul as his assistant, aide, whatever. It's like a ministerial servant. So I ended up becoming a ministerial servant, which made me instrumental to the church and to the members of the church. Then we switched from one congregation to another congregation, moved back to New York. And once I was back in New York, I was in my element because I was out late at night preaching. I was out doing all kinds. I had met quite a few people that I met who had terrible situations, studied the Bible with them for a couple of years. They became Jehovah's Witnesses, got married, had families. They're still Jehovah's Witnesses, but they're not allowed to talk to me because I was thrown out. They're still out there. So the point being is that I was very sincere and worked very hard. And they eventually said, would like to make you an elder. I was very young. I was only in my 20-something. I think it was 20-something. Yeah, they said, we see you as elder material. So I became an elder. I was ordained minister in the state of New York. I think I was the youngest ordained minister in the state of New York. And I went on to perform marriages or whatever, But as an elder, it was a huge responsibility, especially with that group, because they were it's so funny. It's really a comedy how crazy it got, because I was very approachable. Some of my other elders were 78, 80 years old, miserable, tired. And I was this zealot, this very young guy who, Sister so-and-so is having problems with whatever, her sexual urges or whatever. And I'd run off and we're going to help you. We're going to introduce you to a brother we're going to build you a family. I was just very active, trying to help everybody around me, So I was sincere. And you study a lot. You study Hebrew, Greek, the meaning of the Bible, the words in the Bible, where did they come from? Where did teaching come from? You study all kinds of stuff. But you're like Superman. Especially if you're a young elder, they need you. They need you for emergencies. There's a lot of emergencies. Some kid some Jehovah's Witness boy falls off a roller coaster at an amusement park, has his legs torn off. Well, you're there, 2 a.m, jump out of bed. You got to be there because you want to be there for the family, The next day it's, whatever. Somebody wants to leave their husband. You got to stop that from happening. If you're an adrenaline junkie, it's the way to go. It's like being James Bond without a gun. You're just basically very busy. But I was sincere. Looking back, I was sincere. I wasn't showing off or anything. I loved helping people. And meanwhile, I was falling apart, you know. So, and I eventually left that organization. I had my spiritual life, but it was contingent upon my relationship with the church. It wasn't me and God. It was still, I became a minister. I became an elder. I would teach people. I would counsel people. I was very active, but things weren't right. I knew I wasn't dealing with God directly. I was answering to men, pleasing men. So I didn't hit that point yet, you know. It came later.
Just so I don't want to drag up bad memories, but tell me this guy got his comeuppance, the one that harmed you back in the day.
No, he's actually he's dead now, but he was a very famous, infamous serial rapist. And he was at the Fordham University as a professor of chemistry, and he destroyed a 13-year-old boy in prep school, destroyed him, sexually violent raped the kid. And he got a little hand slap for that. So they moved him to another college to teach. And then they moved him to another college to teach where he raped and molested more kids there. And that's the way they do it. They're still doing it. That's the Catholic Church.
That's horrible.
He was moved 18 times. 18 times he was moved over, 30 years. And wherever he went, he left destruction along the way. He finally passed away. Anyone could Google his name. His name is Father Roy Drake. And you'll see a picture of him and his identical twin brother, who's a doll. I got to know him later on in life. His brother was very supportive and kind to me, George Drake. But no, he didn't get crap. Actually, after everything he did, he was put into an institution, I think in Pennsylvania, for sexual abusers. The church has their own little hospitals that they put you in. If you get enough trouble, they put you in for, 6 months to be treated for your addiction. Then he got out and did it again. But he lived out his life. This is a very important part of my story, which I recently was in New York City for a deposition in front of the church attorneys. And they thought they were scoring points and beating me down. I finally said, could I ask you one thing? After all he did and all the rapes and all the destruction and the violence, how can you let him live his final 6 years back at Fordham as a spiritual advisor to college kids? And they looked at each other. And this one lawyer said, that's not true. And the other attorney for the church whispered, he goes, yeah, it's true.
Wow.
And so they knowingly took this serial rapist and allowed him to live in comfort. Because these places where these priests live, they retire. They got the best cigars, the best wine. They got the feet up, the leather couches. He lived in luxury his final 6 years. So there was no justice in the end. But,
No, maybe not in this life, but let's hope for the next, eh?
Yeah, thank you. My mother, in particular, told me to shut up and never mention it again. And next thing you know, I'm like, and my siblings didn't know what went on. I'll cut them some slack. But they knew that I was on the outs with my parents, so they jumped on board. It's the black sheep thing. So they jumped on board. And they were upset that I became a Jehovah's Witness. So it's like, it's basically, I postponed the help I needed. And I also quit drugs when I became a Jehovah's Witness. I was doing a lot of weird drugs. At the time, we had like LSD was around, sunshine, stuff like that. I was doing all kinds of weird shit. And I never dealt with the problem. And like anybody who's knowledgeable or researched victims of child abuse, you usually don't talk about it till you're 55 and laying in a gutter somewhere. And then you suddenly say, Daddy used to do this to me, or, my big brother used to do this to me. So as a witness, as active as I was, sincere and enjoying the process and really feeling okay, something was going crazy inside of me because I was drinking more, and I was having nightmares that I can't tell you how bad my nightmares were. Reoccurring nightmares that were so real. I thought I was possessed. I thought it was a demonic possession because of nightmares. So I did something that no Jehovah's Witness ever does. I went to a psychiatrist. You're not supposed to really do that. It's not a disfellowshipping offense, but it's frowned upon.
Right.
So I went to a psychiatrist, a very accomplished psychiatrist. I went to him. He says, he listened to me. We met a couple times. He said, "Have you ever been sexually molested?" I said, "No, absolutely not." I was like 30 years old, 35. He goes, "You sure?" I'm like, "Yeah, no, not me. I just want to talk about the nightmares."
Yeah.
So he says, "You need to be on some kind of medication," because I also expressed the fact that I was suicidal again. So I voluntarily locked myself in a mental ward in a hospital. By the way, my father was the head of the hospital. He was the head physician of the hospital. He was away on a vacation. He came home and heard his son is locked on the second floor on 2D is the name of and he was told he's not allowed on that floor. He's not allowed access to me because they just knew something was wrong. So nobody was allowed access to me, including my wife and kids. And they just locked me up for 30 days. 30 days in a mental ward. And I put myself there because I said, I don't know why I'm going here, but I better not be. I need to be here. I didn't know why. I just locked myself up.
We will be right back after this message.
Yeah, it's a slick podcast and we keeping it real. We keeping it groovy. It's the food for your thoughts, so you know we ain't losing. We just trying to hit the top. Every topic you choosing, simulate the mind frame. We just helping you use it. Feel it's a slick podcast. Thanks for tuning in, cause we're here to see the truth. Yeah, we doing it. Life in Scotland, around the UK. Question, what do you say? No matter how bizarre, we answer it. Yeah, it's the new way. Slick podcast, come enjoy the show. Keep it real, keep it groovy. Always how we roll. This is passion. Podcast, this is passion.
Sleep Podcast. The Sleep Podcast. Yeah, it's a Sleep Podcast. Truly unforgettable topic. This is Sleep Podcast.
The experience of life and looking at the world, does that reinforce your faith or does it question it? A little bit deep.
Oh, no, it reinforces it.
Why?
Okay, here's the best answer I could give you. When you look at the life of Jesus, read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Then read it again, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Because they're the only guys who actually hung around with Jesus. And Paul may have been a good guy, but guess what? He never met him. He came around 90 years later. So I don't give a fuck what Paul said either. I just want Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They were with him. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. You read them over and over and over and over again. Yeah, that's Jesus just basically said the first thing he did out of the gate when he started his ministry at age 30, he said, stop going to these buildings. Stop calling Matthew 6:9. Don't call anyone your father. Stop it. Stop assembling in these groups. Stop it. Just treat your neighbor as you'd want to be treated. Love conquers all. Stop judging people. Just if everybody who goes to some form of church every week, instead of going to church, went next door and help the neighbors next door who maybe house is falling apart or they have some kind of problem, they're malnutrition. If everyone did that next week, the entire world would be completely different. And that's all Jesus was saying. So the kindnesses that people extended to me, including a couple school teachers, saved my life.
It's better to do than just to talk about it, right?
Oh, at the worst moments in my life when I was completely gone, like really gone, someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, instead of going to classes today, we're going to have you sit in this room and write short stories. I'm like, really? Yeah, because the teacher noticed something was wrong with me. So she protected me from the math teacher, the science teacher, the physical education classes, brought me in, and that woman still, I believe she's still here. I wrote her a couple of years ago. It's just a very perceptive teacher who knew I was in trauma and knew I was incredibly incapable of any schoolwork. And I was being put upon by my parent, my father. So she saved my life just by an act of kindness. So that's why, your point about religion, I am a huge fan of Jesus. I mean, but people go, well, this is stupid. You're into Jesus? Yeah, because you didn't read the book, dumbass. Forget the movie, read the book. You know what I mean? It's just if you read the first-hand accounts of Jesus, not to mention like you have Jewish historians like Josephus and people like that who said, yeah, he really was here. It was, they're not religious, but they're like, it seems to be true that the guy really was here and he really did say this stuff. And it's like, so it's reinforced my faith in the fact that this guy came and told us stuff. And he said, stop with the system of things is over. Because you do something weird, you don't have to bring 2 goats up to the temple and, have them bleed out and then you're forgiven. You just talk to God directly. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it absolutely, no matter how bad things get for me, no matter whatever goes on, I never doubt the existence of, first of all, a creator, because obviously this is all working perfect, like the biggest watch in the world that's infallibly perfect. Everything works.
Intelligent design, for sure. Absolutely. 100% intelligent design. To put a label on it is, I don't think the human brain is meant to comprehend or to know the creator or creators. But yeah, absolutely, 100% intelligent design, for sure.
Yeah, it's like freakish. It's really freakish how perfect everything is. And the beauty of things. I live on an 18-acre farm. I just moved here like a little over a month ago. It's 18-acre farm my friend Jeff bought, but he doesn't want to live here now. So he says, I'll buy the farm with 18 acres in the mountains and you live there. I'm like, okay, that sounds like a good deal. So just looking out the window every day and looking at all the amazing things around us, the creation, and it just does. I was always a big person on the water, the oceans, boating and fishing and everything on the ocean. It's all perfect, the tides, everything perfect. Say, well, it was by accident. There was a big explosion and everything mathematically works perfect, It just, so I believe in a creator. I can't get into I can't even do the thing like, well, what's his name? And, is he mad? I relate to that. I think that's why he sent his firstborn down to sort of relate to us so we can now understand him more. That's sort of my thing. I don't go to church. I get invited every week to church down here, by the way. Everybody goes to church. Mm-hmm. Everybody goes to church, not only on Sunday, but they go on Wednesday. There's something on Friday. Everyone goes to church, and they all invite me to their church, and I really appreciate what they're doing because I used to do that to people. Mm-hmm. But I just tell them, I said, you don't want me in your church. I've been excommunicated from the Catholic Church. I've been excommunicated from Jehovah's Witnesses. You don't want me in your church. And I just may say the wrong thing. I said, I'll be your friend, but don't bring me to church. Just something could go wrong, you know?
Let's move on to your time in the food industry. You've had a passion for food and in its quality. You have ran a very successful restaurant as well. But where did that all start?
I know the answer to that. And it's because some of my siblings happen to be very, very successful food people. It's because my mother was a horrible cook, you know? She was just horrible. And we had a big mansion. We had money. My father was a prominent doctor. There was money around, but the meals were just, I mean, she made a good pineapple upside down cake. So she just kept making them all the time. Irish soda bread, too. Irish soda bread. She'd make them in a coffee can. That's it. But dinner in my house was like 10 of us. It looked like something from Oliver Twist. There were like 10 of us sitting at the long table. My father would come in from the office, still with his stethoscope around his neck, sit down, and then there would be like, I swear to God, I've asked my sister, who has a great memory, am I exaggerating this? So there's 12 people total, right? 10 kids, 2 parents. They put 13 pork chops out. You know what I mean? So it was a race. Like dry pork chops, not like juicy fat ones that, you know, sear it just right. Just dried like a shoe with canned sauerkraut, crap sauerkraut, and just go. So it was a race. And there was never food in the refrigerator. So we all just go in the neighbors' gardens at night. We get stoned when we were teenagers and go in the neighbor's garden, get tomatoes. I remember the first time I got a big fat tomato and some basil and some Italian friend. Oh, you should put mozzarella in there too. Tomato, basil, mozzarella. And I bit into it. I go, oh my God almighty. It was like, that was it. So my younger brother, Thomas Gumpel, I just talked to him the other day. We don't talk much. We talked the other day. He was like the vice president of Panera Breads for years. And then he went on to, he was the dean of pastry at the Culinary Institute of America. And I always said, like, how did you get this going? He goes, just being stoned and late at night, no food in the house. So you have some flour and some water. So my sister Karen, similar stuff. There was no food in the house. There was like, you know, some butter, some yogurt. So they just pulled, you know, you just do what you do what you can do. We survived through food. And I, as a Jehovah's Witness, I worked for a living. I didn't take any money from anybody. So I was a house painter. I had several careers. I had a lot of health problems at the time. But I eventually, my ex-wife and I would cook dinner for other people a lot. I spent a lot of time. I had this thing. I wanted to make great meals for people. So it was like Babette's Feast. Remember Babette's Feast, that movie? Mm-hmm. She's cooking for most of my parishioners or members of our church were very poor people, mostly Black, American minorities. And we invited them to my house, which wasn't an amazing house. And we'd make amazing deals like lobster, stuffed crab, you know, squash blossoms filled with crab meat seared and great wines. I just love spending money on cooking for people. We both did that. And then, so when I ended up divorced, which was unexpected, and homeless, which was even more expected, in the streets of San Francisco, I eventually decided to go back to New York and get a job. And I got a job at Dean and DeLuca, the very famous gourmet food store. And that's where I met my wife, Helen. And her and I together both had an appreciation of food, blah, 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 blah. And we opened up our place in Hawaii. I know it sounds crazy. It's people talk to me and they go, wait a minute, I thought you were a restaurateur. You know, I was, but yeah. But then I was a bookie. And then, yes, I was a drug dealer for a while, but in between that, I was an electrical engineer. It sounds crazy. It just sounds crazy. But that's the nature of the book, Inky Gumpel, that my wife wrote. It's like following the stepladder of crazy things. But food is, to this day, I'm like, not only do I appreciate the fact that somebody like you would send a bottle of this from Scotland to me, this is the most exciting thing in the world. I've been waiting for weeks.
How long did you have the restaurant for?
It was only a couple of years, but we had moved to Hawaii shortly after I met Helen. We moved to Hawaii because she's from Hawaii, and she was going through her shit. That's what brought us together. Mm-hmm. So we had similar backgrounds and similar traumas. She was very successful when I met her, and I was not. But we had something in common, and she wanted to go home to Hawaii. And I didn't have custody of my children. My children were now preteens and stuff, and they were, or not even. And so we went to Hawaii with the understanding that I'm going to go to Hawaii. I'm going to start my own restaurant in Hawaii. And my daughters will come over and spend the entire summer with us. My 3 little darlings will come and spend the summers with us in Hawaii and Christmas in Hawaii. I'm like, I could do that. That I can do. And I'll concentrate on my restaurant 100%. We're actually going to call the restaurant the Three Sisters. That's how excited I was about this. But so we had the restaurant going. We did the unthinkable. We were in Kona, Hawaii. We were in Honolulu for a year. That was a shithole. So we went over to Kona, Hawaii. Very beautiful, not cluttered. And that's where we opened the restaurant. And I had my produce and my meats and everything coming in from New York, from Alaska. I had my fish coming in from Alaska, directly shipped to me by people I know. Everything I had was perfect ingredients. So it cost me a lot of money, So, the food thing was another life-saving thing. The whole food thing was fantastic.
Tell us about how you got into Hollywood.
Pure accident. They call it falling up. We came back from Hawaii. My children's mother suddenly decided, I don't think I'm going to send them over there. Now I'm in Hawaii, and I was missing my kids terribly. So we came back to New York. Like, what do I do now? And so Helen and I were living on the Upper West Side of Manhattan in a very beautiful building called the Ansonia. But we didn't have much money. We sold the restaurant, but they stiffed us on half the money, said, we'll send you the other half, in 30 days. It was just another fucking mess, But we did okay. We made money on selling the restaurant. So we're living in this beautiful building called the Ansonia, and we have a roommate, Chi-Chi, who was another very famous runway model. So me and the 2 girls in 1-bedroom apartment, that's a story. And I was doing cocaine. I started with the whole cocaine thing. And it was almost medicine for me at first, because it was like, it just got me up, out the door. I had a job in a fish market, a high-end fish market, downstairs from my building across the street. But I was doing too much cocaine. And this big dark thing from my past was coming in on me at the same time, So I laid in bed next to her, which was on the floor. We were on a mat on the floor at that apartment. And I just remember having the most wonderful, warm feeling in the world. And here's a woman who's been all over the world. Runway with Calvin Klein all around the world. One of the most famous models in the world at one time. And I'm staring at her earlobe. And I just said, I never knew your earlobe was that beautiful. She's wrapped in a sheet like a cocoon, And I said to her, could you help me do something? She's like, what? I want to write a story. And she came to life. She was like, really? Because she always said, you should write stories. These things in your head. And she's read samples of my writing, a little bit scribble shit I threw around. And so she was game on. She's like, what do you need? I said, yellow pad. We go to the roof, bring some coffee, espressos. Let's get on the roof. And in 3 days, I just started talking. It wasn't a script. Yellow pad. And she's writing as fast as four hands, She's like writing as fast. And I'm just telling the story that I pulled out of my ass. It's loosely based upon these four or five boys go to a concert, an Emerson, Lake and Palmer concert in upstate New York. And they have to steal the neighbor's car to go there, or borrow the neighbor's car. It wasn't really stealing. And they don't have driver's licenses, and how they're trying to get to the Emerson, Lake and Palmer concert because they heard from their big brothers and sisters about Woodstock years ago, and they want to be there for the next thing. And in 3 days, in between sandwich breaks, we filled the yellow pad. There was a beginning, there was a middle, and there was an end to the story. And I just said, throw it to the side. So, threw it to the side, never thought about movie, never thought about it. And accidentally, Jim Sheridan, the famous Irish producer, director, My Left Foot, Name of the Father, happened to walk into our apartment because we had to sublet the apartment. Things weren't working financially. We said we can't be in the middle of Manhattan with a roommate. So that's the rough story.
Mm-hmm.
So Jim Sheridan comes in. Hey, how are you? I'm like, who's this? We were not in the right frame of mind. We were just starting our divorce. And Jim comes bebopping in with his daughter, Naomi. Oh, it's for my daughter. She's going to go to school here for a year. She's going to sublet it. I go, do you want it or not? I said, well, I'll show her around the building. I'll take her downstairs, show her the laundry room. It's a big building, And I come back to the room after, 15 minutes. He's sitting there drinking my scotch in my chair, reading my yellow pad.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, he goes, this is really good, Neal. I'm up to page 12. This is a movie. I'm like, do you want the apartment or not? He goes, yeah, I'll give you the money. I was doing it for the guy who we were subletting from. It's a typical New York story. I didn't understand who he was. He says, could I take the pad with me? I go, no. He says, could you come to my hotel tomorrow? Because I'm leaving to Ireland tomorrow, and I want you to meet somebody. Could you bring me the pad then? I said, I'll make a copy of the pad. We'll make a copy because Helen worked for the Carnegie Hall. So we made copies of the whole thing, brought it to him. I brought it to him the next day at the hotel. I go into the hotel. I said, Mr. Sheridan. I'm still thinking, this guy's nuts, Oh, yes. And they bring a security guy to take me up to his room. Fancy schmancy. I get there, open the door. Jim's there with Daniel Day-Lewis. You know Daniel? I said, no, I didn't know Daniel. I didn't go to movies or nothing. Turns out they take the pad. They go back to Ireland. He calls me a couple of weeks later. He goes, I'm doing your movie. I'm like, what? He called me at the fish market on Sunday. He says, I'm doing your movie. I said, well, it's not a movie. He goes, oh, it's a movie. I'm doing your movie. So I asked a couple people quickly who he is and what this means. And they were like, go. So I had to quit my job that night, Sunday evening, when he called me from his jet heading to Toronto Film Festival. I quit my job right there with the blessings of the owner. He said, if you need to come back, come back. He was very good about it. And I was whisked off to Toronto Film Festival in the morning. I was having a late breakfast with Kevin Bacon, his wife, Liam Nielsen, Helen Mirren, Fionnuala Flanagan, all went on to become, some of them went on to become friends of mine for a very long time. It just, I was whisked off. And then when we were done for 3 days, I'm like, can't wait to get home. Oh, no, you're not going home. You have to go to Hollywood.
Oh, good grief.
Now we're off to Hollywood. And I proceeded to make every mistake you could make from there on in. Years of bad decisions in Hollywood.
What I'd like to do is to move on. I've had a long career in Hollywood with different scripts and selling to different people like DreamWorks, a big production company. So it brings us to the documentary that was made by a mutual friend of ours called Inky. Just give us a backstory to that.
So I met Julius when he was 8 years old, when I was in the southern desert of California. I guess I'll say I took him under my wing. Now he's actually making movies with his friends. He's sending them to me. I'm working with him. We finally agreed at like 18 years old, I was going to help him write a script. Or he said, could you write a script that I could shoot? I was like, I loved his enthusiasm. I loved the energy. I said, I'll write you a nice little script. I said, I'll write the script. You direct it. Because I don't like writing partners, you know. So I wrote a little script called Dose. So, you know, there's been bumps. He's like a grandson to me. He's like, I get mad at him and we don't talk for a period of time and falling out here and there. Because he's very enthusiastic and he moves very fast. So he came back to me just less than a year ago and he said, I want to make a movie, a feature documentary about our relationship. And I'm like, why? He goes, because you don't know this, but you're kind of an interesting person. It's kind of fun to hear the stories. I said, really? I talked to my manager. He goes, this sounds like a good idea. Can't hurt. I said, okay, but it's not going to be for children, you know? So all of a sudden he says, I've just got to figure a way to get the money. But I have friends of mine with money, and a couple of them said, if you ever have to do your next project, because they saw fish therapy take off. And they're like, next time you need money, come to us. So I said, okay, got some money? Yeah, okay. Another one got some money, Jeff and Laird, my good friend Laird and Jeff. They both threw in some money, and we got Julius to Nashville. Julius and Enrique came to Nashville. We set up the interviews at a very nice hotel, and everybody was taken care of. We were all treated good. And also we shot this thing, and within 2 months, they're done. This is the opposite of Hollywood. It would have taken 6 years just to like discuss the legal shit. Just fast as could be, we did it. Chris Rochester came on as a producer. He was the interviewer. And Julius directed this thing and edited with Enrique. It just did this amazing thing. And the next thing you know, it's like they're at the film festivals with this. This is all within 3-4 months. It's winning awards at film festivals in Europe and being honorable mention. I'm like, I should have done this 35 years ago. You know what I mean? Forget Hollywood. Forget the studio system. Just take a damn camera and shoot the thing. Take it to the festivals and sell it to a streaming service like Hulu or Amazon Prime. But now Inky's going to be on Amazon Prime and Hulu. It's out now on, I think it's on Plex. There's different versions of it. Some of it has music, some of it doesn't. Some have illustrations and photos. But not all streaming services will accept all that stuff because they want just a bare bones thing. Move.
Film industry now compared to what it used to be maybe way back then when you first went into it?
Oh, the biggest difference is Hollywood is gone. Hollywood's dead. I mean, somebody may watch this who works in Hollywood goes, he's full of shit. Hollywood's here. I know Hollywood is there. Physically has not fallen into the ocean just yet. But it's done. The political correctness, the horse shit, Hollywood's done. And people broke away. Mark Wahlberg went this way. Kevin Costner went this way. Mel Gibson went this way. Sandra Bullock went this way. They spread out around the country. And they set up mini studios. Then you had your streaming services. But the studio system is what you're talking about. The studio system, the gatekeepers, it's over. Like I said, I could come to your house, spend a month with you and Jet, and if I have $10,000 and a camera guy, and we could drink while we're there.
Yeah.
But $10,000, if I had Julius and me come there, I'll write a little screenplay about a guy who goes to Scotland, fish out of water, and put me there, or not me, but an actor, American actor. You can do a great little film for $10,000 or $20,000. And if you do a good job, you could sell it to one of the streaming services. It may just be Hulu and Amazon Prime, but guess what? You'll get your money back. You get your money back plus a little more, and that's the magic. That's what's going on now, and nobody will tell you about it. People are making. Remember something? You say, well, what's your chance of it? There's a lot of streaming services, and guess what? They need material. Mm-hmm. They need content. And that's
so as a wannabe scriptwriter that has no connection with people like yourself or Julius, what would be their first port of call, do you think, to put that script forward?
When you write the script, first of all, realize that a feature film used to be, we were writing studio films. I was writing studio films. They wanted 118, 120 pages. Now it's 95 pages for a feature. Television pilot, 28 minutes. When you're writing something, don't write things like 5 jets come overhead and bomb. You just keep within a budget. So if you could write that, take the Full Monty. That's a good example I like to talk about because it's one of the movies that made me want to write. It's just 5 guys, they're in this guy's house, then they go over to this guy's house, then they go over here, then they sit in the pub, and it just, or Billy Elliot or something. Just the greatest movies that changed the industry. That said, wow, you could do a movie that simple. Just have minimal characters, an interesting location, but the script has to be good. It's got to be funny and sweet, heartwarming. Jim Sheridan told me something once that was really profound, although he didn't always follow it. It's, if you try to write even a funny movie, you want to make them cry one time. You know what I mean? But don't try making them cry on page 28 and cry again at page 62 and then think you're going to get a really good tearful ending because they cracked it. So if you could hold back that moment, because even the best comedies, you take stupid things like The Jerk with Steve Martin, The Three Amigos, all the stupid movies we like, the Chevy Chase movies, they're funny and stupid and they're fantastic. But there's that moment in these movies. There's that moment.
I've got one. So the late John Candy in Planes, Trains and Automobiles, when you suddenly discover John Candy's wife had died months ago and he's just like, he's got nowhere to go with Steve Martin. And it was a heart-touching moment, a massive out-of-the-box punch in the face you never saw coming, right?
Yeah. If you could write, and I'm talking about comedies right now because I enjoy comedies, even though I wrote some dramas. If you could, and in dramas, you could have that funny moment toward the end. So there's a reversal. But yeah, exactly. It's a perfect example of what you're talking about. I mean, there's a movie I've talked about 1,000 times to students of mine and people I work with. Galaxy Quest is that movie where there are a bunch of television stars on like a Star Trek type of show, Galaxy Quest, with Steve, what's his name, Allen? I don't know the guy's name from Home Improvement.
Tim Allen.
I liked his acting. I thought he's the worst actor in the world. And I watched that thing because Janine Garofalo was in it. I like her. I know her. Bill Macy's in it. I said, let me watch this stupid thing. And I'm watching and I'm like, it's kind of interesting. It's really well written and everything. And I'm like, no, I'm mixed up. I'm mixing my movies up now. No, the one Galaxy Quest, they go into space. There's a show, and there are a bunch of burnt out actors from a shitty show, whatever. But that moment where they say to Tim Allen says, no, we have to fight these aliens. They're like, what are you, crazy? We're a bunch of out-of-work actors. Get the hell out of here. He says, no. Basically, this is the moment. And they just say, we're going to do it. And they all just sort of get together and they go up against this alien force that's going to take out the Earth. God, what a moment, you know.
Pure gold.
I've always said, people say, what's your favorite moment in a movie? And if I was held to say one, that moment in that movie.
Like the John Candy one, not he's a real burden on Steve Martin. He's a lovable, likeable bloke. And then you realise that he's actually a widower and he's completely destroyed inside. I just thought, it was like lump in the throat thing. That was genius.
Oh, jeez. You're watching a comedy and you're tearing up.
Yeah.
That's why it's a success. That's why people watch it again and again and again. I mean, it's stupid, fun comedy, just silly, but it has that one sentence, as you said, the one sentence gave it so much heart.
So, are you enjoying the whiskey?
Yeah, not as much as you. Let me see your bottle, by the way. Oh, you're crazy fucking bastard.
I'm a bit used to this, Neil. So
where's the wife? That's why she's got you out there in the trailer, out in the yard.
That's
right?
Exactly where I am.
She has the electric fence turned on.
Yeah. Because Jet said, "Why are you doing it at 11 o'clock at night?" And I said, "Well, because Neil doesn't want to. We normally talk, you and I, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon your time." I said, "Neil doesn't want to be drinking whiskey at 1 o'clock." So,
well, it's funny because Helen, like she knows when I'm on the phone with certain people. I have a friend, Lou. If I'm on with Lou, it's just quiet talk, long talk. But she knows when I'm on with you because I'm usually crying, laughing, screaming, hysterical. Plus, I always have you on screen too, so it's usually during the daytime. So she knows, it's very funny. You've got that special thing, yeah. But if I wasn't clear enough, I really encourage people who want to make films. It's easier now than ever before to make a movie and to sell it. I know that's a ballsy statement. It's never been easier because there's all these streaming services, hundreds of them, and they need content. If you're going to go in greedy, think you're going to be a millionaire, then forget it. If you can keep your budget down, work with a few friends, and put it together and have a great story with 1 or 2 locations, 2 or 3 actors, you could sell it. You can sell it. They need content.
That's very lovely. So that is us at the top of the hour, Neil, and I've really enjoyed our time together today. Good luck.
Oh, I love talking to you.
Any last words before we wrap up?
A quick illustration. My father was a brilliant doctor, successful doctor, very flawed guy. But we had a lot of boats, little boats and bigger boats. And for some reason, as smart as my father was, we had a summer house in Connecticut. So we'd always get up there. My father would jump in the boat and he'd drive out of a Wickety Quack Cove and go out with his boat. We'd be in the boat with him going to the beach. And that guy, without fail, boom, he'd ram into a rock out there in the ocean, in the salt coves. And my mother would be screaming and the boat would be sinking. And all the locals who grew up there would say, "There's no rock." There was a rock. But it was low tide. And my father hit more rocks. He was constantly hitting rocks. And people grew up their whole life, never hit these rocks. And it got to the point like where locals would say, "Well, I don't know, ask Dr. Gumpel. He'll tell you where the rock." Well, as you come out of Wickety Quack Cove, 30 degrees to the left, there is a rock there at low tide. So you go 40 degrees this way and it'll work you. My father became an expert on telling people like where the rocks are because he just hit them all the time. He was like legendary. So that's what I am. I'm that guy. I'll brag about that. I'll tell you where the rocks are. So if you want to make it in Hollywood, go to my TikTok or something like that. Write to me. I'll answer all your things. Ask me what not to do. And because I did it all. I hit every rock along the way. I'm 68 years old. Hopefully I'm not going to hit any more rocks. But I'll just tell you what, because I was there. I was at the top of the game, running with the A-listers, selling the studios. I had it all, and I made a bunch of mistakes. So I could tell everybody what not to do. That's like my dad. That's my gift.
Neal Gumpel, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Simon. I always enjoy talking to you just on a personal level when we get together. You're a charming guy to be with. And best to Jet, and we will talk.
And that was the Man of Words episode with Hollywood scriptwriter Neal Gumpel. Oh, and in case I get any of my words in the muck and fuddle on this outro, forgive me, I have just been drinking whiskey. So then, I really enjoyed making this particular episode, and of course drinking that exceptional whiskey also. It's apparent Neal has led a very interesting life and has had quite a big diversity in career choices. He's rubbed shoulders with the top A-listers, the movers and the shakers of Hollywood at that particular entity's peak. As he said, been there and done that and gotten a t-shirt to prove it. However, listening to his earlier life's recount of that traumatic experience at the hands of a violent and sexually deviant priest was shocking. Remember, Neal's family when he was a child growing up had money and in some ways more privileged than other families around them. But none of that mattered in the end. Those material things counted for very little. Neal wasn't your average kid growing up. He was unique in some ways. Couple that with the brutal attack on him a few years later, that resulted in his life completely falling apart, including suicidal thoughts, and luckily a failed attempt at taking his own life is heartbreaking. I can tell you that knowing Neal as I do now, he absolutely does not want pity or sympathy from anyone. I'm sure you could tell that as he spoke. Neal has faced adversity of the darkest kind, and through courage and determination has came out the other side of it. I've learned that he is a man that doesn't let his past define him. Sure, he draws upon his past experiences, but never lets them define him. That is a very valuable life lesson right there. I like the guy a lot. Absolutely no airs or graces about him. Remembering, of course, that there are quite a few minor, and I mean minor, air quotes, celebrities that are really stuck up themselves. Neal isn't one of those. He's down to earth and brutally honest and approachable. He can laugh at himself, and that's an important characteristic to have these days, right? Bottom line, trauma sucks, especially when somebody else is the cause of it. No matter how dark things get, Neal's message is clear. Move forward and keep the faith. You can find Neal Gumpel, Hollywood writer, on TikTok. Check out the documentary promo on YouTube under Inky Documentary Official Trailer. Or why not treat yourself to their autobiography, Inky, written by Neal's wife Helen, on Kindle for free if you subscribe. The links are below. If you enjoyed the show, give it a like, subscribe also if you be so kind. Leave a comment below or send the show an email, theslkpodcast@gmail.com. But either way, please, keep them kind. I've also put a link below to the Annandale Distillery where you can purchase a bottle of Man of Words if you fancy one. I completely recommend it. And no, I'm not getting a cut, a backhander, or any help from the distillery, but the whiskey is fine anyway. And so, my friends, it's time for me to go. Until next time, stay safe, be happy, and certainly not afraid. Bye.
Slick Podcast. Keeping it real. And always keeping it groovy.